We are talking about all roads leading to customer profitability. I got Dustin, I got Jay, and I've got Adam with me. All right, Jay, let's go ahead and start with you. So first of all, how are we attracting the customer first? Maybe we'll just kind of go through how are we first attracting that customer, and then of course converting them to a paying customer.
Yeah, good question. I think if you're looking at it from an operator standpoint, there's many ways you can attract a customer. Firstly, we've got to look at regulation in terms of the states that are going live. You see operators that are investing now in states that are pre-launch, and we don't know what that timeline is going to look like. So I think there's certainly a mass marketing effort that needs to be done. When we think about the way that we activate consumers, which is live activation at Betting Hero, it's meeting the customer where they are. So, for example, sports fans tend to hang out inside arenas, at tailgates, at sports bars, or inside sports books. So having the opportunity to create that relationship with them in person and directly is the Betting Hero model. And then obviously it's about educating them on the sports betting apps that they're downloading or interested in, and informing them on the sports betting itself.
Sure.
So,
Dustin, from your side?
Yeah, same thing. Education is key, right? Because every market that becomes regulated, there's a lot of people who do know this is a thing and it's becoming legal and regulated, and then there's a critical mass of search around that. And that's what I think we as affiliates have learned, is there's all this interest right at the front end of this, and you have to acquire those customers then, because there's this. It's gotten even worse with the most recent launches, I think, with Arizona and New York, worse or better. Everybody finds these apps right away because there's excitement around it, and it happens. So that's the interesting part, I think, is that there's so much education, and you also see a transition, I think, from unregulated to regulated whenever we see these happening. You see that people finding the regulated sites because, and that's borne out in search, because these are regulated and trusted partners, and it's finding that.
Makes sense. Adam?
Yeah, obviously agree with the guys on the education part. Excuse my voice. Been talking too much the last couple of days. But we identified the importance of data and independent data in engaging new sports fans to sports betting. So we spent a lot of time on taking that data, building predictions, probabilities, edges, suggested bets, etc. And whilst that's not really overly unique, what we do and where we're focused our time is taking that data, which can be scary and complex, and trying to make that really easy to consume. So bringing customers in through that visual communication strategies, bringing them into communities, and then referring them to the books through building trust with them and building a one-to-one relationship.
Yeah, and so then Adam, from your side, once you have them, what have you found successful in keeping them there and keeping the customer profitability going?
Yeah, I think that relationship we've got with the customer and the community we're trying to develop with them as well. So we run predictions for 20,000 events each year, so making sure they're getting the information they want around the sports that they're betting on, personalising that, even answering questions, in Discord channels, social media channels. We can have that direct relationship with them and get them coming back and spending more time on the site.
Yeah. Jay?
Yeah, for us at Betting Hero, we tend to have a singular interaction with the consumer for the most part. It's that first interaction, they're registering or funding on their account, or they're placing that first bet. So the way that we really build that relationship is exactly to Adam's point, by trying to build trust quickly. And the way you do that is obviously by being informed on the products that we're representing, but then also helping the consumer get through a challenge that they have. So for example, it could be a consumer in New Jersey doesn't know why they've been flagged when they're trying to sign up for a FanDuel account. They don't know exactly that you have to enter in your address as it is on your license in order to get through that check. But then also being able to troubleshoot the issues that they're having further down the journey. So for example, Bank of America credit cards probably not going to work as a funding method, and educating them on different funding methods that might be more successful. So building that trust by showing credibility for us is really important to obviously resulting in a profitable customer.
Yeah, we do this a lot of the same. We get a lot of emails from people who are looking for answers. I mean, we know people come in through search, but also people just ask us for answers because we're providing that high value content, high value then customer, because this is a customer that does know what they want. We're providing high value leads to the sports books and casinos, and Yeah, it does come back to education, and there's still a lot of that to be done. We're 4 years out of PASPA and the federal ban being lifted, and sometimes it feels like, oh, we're here in this bubble and everybody has the education, but it's not anywhere near the case out there in the marketplace yet.
Seems like the education is going to be something that's going to continue to evolve and the new education is something that you guys are looking to fix every day, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at just take the market as it is today, every quarter there's 2 or 3 more states that are legalizing sports betting. That means there's an enormous cohort of customers in each of those states that have probably never bet on sports before, or have maybe done so in the gray market. There's obviously education that needs to be done there. And then if you think about the product innovation and the product development that I'm sure many of the people in the audience here are focused on this week, these products are at their infancy. Yeah. They are going to improve. They have to improve. Consumers are not going to accept the current products that are in the market for very long. And therefore, there's going to be enormous amounts of education with existing customers that are looking to find new products or try new products out. So education, in my opinion, is going to be a constant theme for the foreseeable future. And again, that's across states, but also products in existing states.
I mean, what you said about the product, like product is still not great, right? It's in the U.S. I don't think. I mean, there are good apps that do their jobs, but we have to iterate, and that's for the sportsbooks themselves, they're going to have to continue making better products because there are some that are very bad out there in the market. There are some that are pretty good, and that user experience, I think, for both retention and getting to the profitable customer, I think is super important.
Adam, so we'll go back to you. How do you keep, then once you have them there, how do you keep them engaged in your product? For the customer reliability or profitability to keep growing, how do you keep them engaged? What are some things that you guys do to keep them engaged?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess when it comes to the sports books and why they should be joining 1, 2, 3, obviously that's our model for all of us at the end of the day. So showing ways that we can increase their profitability as a customer, which kind of is an interesting topic about what we're talking about today, profitability for the industry, but also we want these users to come back and these players to have a good experience. We want their money to last a long time, for a longer amount of time, so they keep coming back and having a good experience in the industry. So showcasing, if you bet this way, you would have achieved this result, and personalised message around that, around the different sports they're betting, the different bet types and that kind of stuff. We do a lot around social media. It's been one of our biggest growth areas, engaging users through, simple conversations, competitions, and user-generated content.
Yeah. Jay, what about you?
Look, I think to pick up on that point, building that relationship over time for operators in particular is going to be critical. You see, operators like BetMGM and Caesars who have done a great job in integrating what is a true omni-channel experience for their consumers, and understanding the consumers and what they're looking for is going to be pivotal in that. Look, FanDuel, if you look at the research that's been done on products, and we do a lot of this first consumer studies ourselves, the FanDuels of the world have the best product right now based on what the consumers are saying. But there are obviously a lot of people that use the DraftKings and BetMGM and Caesars more particular because of the fact that they can get those trips to Vegas, or they can stay at a hotel, or they're familiar with that brand. They connect in a more, let's call it, trusting way with a retail location. So being able to understand that consumer and really start to build a relationship with them beyond just, okay, are you betting $20 on a parlay this weekend? You've got to start to build that relationship, and I think operators are going to continue to focus on that.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I was going to go to next. What are some of the trends of the average consumer out there right now? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, we just released a study from our research division and we focused on New York, and this will be part of a monthly series where we focus on a new state or province each month, where we analyze the industry from the consumer lens, and I think there's not enough of that being done. And what we're finding is that even in a state like New York, which is relatively new, that there is a high affinity to try multiple products from consumers. Very, very little loyalty. If you look at the study that we just conducted, on average of the sports bettors that we studied, they have 3.3 apps on their phone. already. And this is 3 months in. You compare that to a New Jersey where after 3 years, the average consumer has 2.8 apps on their phone.
Yeah.
So a lack of loyalty and a strong affinity to bonus hop and take advantage of promotions in a state like New York is clearly there. And I think we're going to see a lot of that moving forward as consumers decide where do they want to spend most of their time over the course of a several-year period.
Caesars is a great example of that, right? In New York, where they had huge bonus. You could not escape Caesars ads. You still can. I've been in New York a little bit. I'm still seeing Caesars ads, even though they said they're drawing down their advertising. But like they weren't sticky. They got this critical mass in. They had the flashy bonus, and everybody came in, and then they started leaving either for whatever reason, there's customer service, or they got the bonus and left, or people didn't like the app as much because Caesars had claimed market share immediately, and then we get weekly numbers now in New York, and it's drawn back considerably. So yeah, having sticky product and a whole experience that is good, from using the app to customer service to frictionless payments and all of that is key.
Yeah, what we've found so far is that, at least in New York, and I think this will be consistent across many of the states, is that having good UX UI or satisfactory UX UI at this point is going to be the best indicator of initial success and initial loyalty. It's not great. I think in the study we did in New York, 76% of consumers said that they would leave an app for another, for one of any reason, other UX UI, promotion, better odds, better funding, withdrawal options. But having that UX UI right out of the gate is going to be really important, and obviously the promotions are going to help give you that initial lift.
It's interesting. I'm obviously an Australian, proud Australian. PointsBet, Australian company, got one of the best apps in my opinion, and by some of the rating scores out there, but probably haven't grown their market share that they've wanted to. Any thoughts on why that is, based on your studies?
Yeah, the studies we've done, I mean, PointsBet showed very heavily almost every consumer that referenced PointsBet and why that was the product that they were leaning to mentioned the odds and having the best pricing.
Interesting.
What we're finding, however, is that pricing for most consumers is not the most important factor.
Yeah.
So yes, those that are looking for the best price are leaning towards PointsBet, at least in New York. Those that are not necessarily interested in the best price, but perhaps the best UX UI or the best funding withdrawal methods or the speed to use the app, the frictionless experience, tend to be leaning towards FanDuel and DraftKings.
I definitely agree that PointsBet's one of the best products, right? It's up there. You mentioned DraftKings and FanDuel are 1, 2 in the market, but I'd argue they're also probably 2 of the best apps. PointsBet has a great product, so you hear a lot in these conferences of product always wins. It's not winning now, obviously, for PointsBet. It's you have to, they do a lot of things right, I think, but right now to get customers and just to get customers in the door, you can't just have a great product. That is not enough to put butts in seats or bettors in apps, right? You have to do more than that. You have to, that's why you see all the spend on brands, why you see lots of spend on affiliates, and right, because you need those customers right now.
But we see it. We've got the data ourselves, which brands convert best, etc. And for us, we see the betting gets or the tangible offerings are working the best. So you talk about Caesars, they gave away NBA jerseys. That went really well for our customer base. Sports fans who are, making their first recreational sports bets.
Yeah. Adam, I'm going to go back with another question for you, back to profitability here. So what's a common timeline to becoming profitable with that consumer? I know there's various ways that we're finding the profitability, but what would be a common timeline that you see?
I mean, look, it's obviously very early still in this market for that. Working in the Australian market and European market is 12 to 24 months, I think is pretty reasonable, up to 2 years for a customer to become profitable. I don't know whether that's actually the right problem for us to be solving, though. Right at the moment, we've got a big job to do as an industry to make this more mainstream. A lot of numbers get thrown around how many people are betting or haven't, but 180 million probably haven't placed a bet yet in this country. That's our first job, and making their experience a good one. So we talk about profitability. That obviously means the customer losing. We don't want the customer to lose all of their money in their first experience and too quickly, because we want them to come back, want them to have a great time, join again, join another book, bring their friends, and grow this industry, I believe. And that's what we're trying to do with our tools.
Jay?
Yeah, look, I think it's difficult to put a time frame on how quickly you can get to become profitable. I think there's some questions that need to be answered before you can answer that question, which is how much of a wallet is a customer spending with one operator? Look, the more apps that a customer has on their phone, the less quickly they're going to be profitable for one individual operator, or the longer it's going to take for them to be profitable for all of the operators that they play with, right? So if FanDuel has 40% of wallet share with a customer and the other 60% is split between DraftKings, BetMGM, Caesars, and PointsBet, then clearly FanDuel is going to get to that profitability more quickly if all else is equal, i.e. marketing spend and CAC and all the rest of it. But it's the job of the industry, to Adam's point, to better educate, to better inform, to build relationships, to bring these customers back. And it might well be that it could take several years for an operator to get profitable with a customer, but that operator might win in the long run because that's the app that they choose. For example, PointsBet, using that example, PointsBet may end up being one of those winners, but it might take them longer to get to profitability.
Yeah, I think Adam nailed it. Is it even the right question to answer right now? We're seeing in the market, like, people are concerned, like the operators are concerned about becoming profitable, but right now, you're still, like you said, there's still so many people that don't even have access to online sports betting. You know, I sit in Oregon where I only have one app. I get DraftKings and that's it. Like there's like, again, we sit in this bubble. We hear billions and billions of dollars, but so many people have not. And there's sports fans who have there's tons of sports fans out there who are potential bettors who have not been activated. I don't think, and I think your data would probably bear this out, that the offshore sports books have been converted to any great extent because it's a different product, better product in a lot of ways. It's you can bet on credit, things like that. You have to get to all of that first before you really and you have to spend in those new states. We're going to be looking at big pushes in California to legalize California and Texas next year, or later this year for California, early next year for Texas, and you have to spend to acquire those customers as well. You're not for right now, until things settle down, it's not even the right question to ask, I don't think, to see whether somebody's going to be profitable, whether a customer is profitable in the short term.
Right.
It feels like we're all saying as an industry, we're still in that first innings using that baseball analogy. We're also expecting the customer to be profitable. They don't necessarily work together that way, and I think that's something we need to be mindful of.
Yeah. Dustin, I wanted to ask you, and one thing you just talked about, are we overvaluing sports fans as potential bettors? So talking about now, who are we trying to get as customer profitability? Are we overvalued?
Yeah, I mean, I said that there's a huge universe of people who just are sports fans, and how many of those people can then be converted to bettors? Because just having a list of sports fans, we know Fanatics is getting into the space. Just having that list that's not really enough, I don't think, to just turn into an instantly profitable database that you can just say, oh, all of you are going to bet on sports immediately, right? Maybe some percentage of them, but what did I'm not sure any of us know. Maybe you guys do, but what is a sports fan? What is an attractive offer for a sports fan? Because we've kind of gotten the lowest hanging fruit. Like DraftKings and FanDuel leverage their databases from the DFS days. Like we know these people are coming in droves right at the beginning when sports betting starts in any given state. But there's still so much at the margins to be pecked at, I think. Not even the margins, this critical mass of people that aren't betting. Do they want to bet? What do they want to bet on? And we're still very early days on all of that, I think. Whether we're overvaluing them or not, they're probably not as profitable customers, but there's enough of them out there that if you get enough of that, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, I think it comes into when an operator is evaluating their spend and which consumers to target. Sports fans are an obvious target because at the mass level, the macro level, they're going to be more qualified, more educated on whatever sport it is that they might bet on, more interested in betting on a team that they're either a fan or not a fan of. So it's certainly a more qualified customer base. And I think there is an element that all sports fans could enjoy sports betting. Now, how profitable will they be? That depends on how frequently they bet and how good at sports betting that they might be, or how well educated they are. Yeah. However, I think it's the job of us that are supporting the operators, but also the operators themselves, to build that relationship with the sports bettors, to personalize their offerings to the different personas that are in the industry. So, for example, if you have a very avid sports fan, but they're not a sports bettor. They've rarely bet on sports, and they're not interested in, necessarily constructing sports betting strategy, so to speak, but they want to put $5, $10 on a game to increase their, attraction to that sport or that event that's going on. Then it's the job of us and the operators to understand that consumer, build that relationship, and then personalize the offerings to them. So, okay, you're a Jets fan, great. The Jets suck. You might want to take this. Sorry. I live in Michigan, so the Lions, they suck worse. But you're a Jets fan. You may lose this game. You're happy if you win, but maybe you want to place $5 on the other side. To give yourself that little bit of insurance, and it puts a little bit more appeal on the game. I think we're going to start to see a lot more innovation in the industry when it comes to personalizing the experience for sports fans, and I think that's going to obviously attract more and more fans into sports betting in a responsible way. Which is
why you see all this about second screens, right? Yeah. Like engaging with the game and having something else that's either gambling or gamifying it or what have you. Like that's why the leagues and the teams are definitely all in on that. Like they have their own products. Sometimes they have a free, like NBA free to play product, fantasy, all of this. Like having this always in your maybe that's a great product to have all at once, right? And then that's why DraftKings and FanDuel are a little. They have some of it all in one, and they're endeavoring to build more of it. So.
Yeah, so I mean, the point of that is we're not necessarily overvaluing them. We just need to serve them better and differently. Is that what your guys are saying here?
Yeah, I think you need to have different content strategies, and different approaches. But I think as a philosophy, we believe all content should be consumable and relatable to a sports fan or bettor, whether it's your first ever bet or your 10,000th bet, if you're some of us.
Right. Dustin, last question I wanted to get to, and if you guys have questions, of course, get those in here in the last 10 minutes. How does the industry move people away from the offshores? It's one thing that we've talked about a lot since the big boom, but how do we start, we've already started, but how do we continue moving them away from offshore?
Yeah, I mean, as much as we decry the offshore industry, they have great products, right? Yeah. They have a loyal user bases who've trusted them for some amount of time. Now, that's obviously always at risk with the legality around them, but you have to provide something that's as good as that, right? And the loyalty and the customer experience, again, everything that they do right. I would argue that most of what has happened so far in the U.S. has not converted that those people might grab a bonus here or there, but they're already comfortable with what they're doing. So, again, we talk about this. We've been doing this forever. It's been 4 years. Like we're still so early. You can't. It's not solved, but there's going to be more of that for sure. And it is more just legalization and regulation too. That you have to. We don't have all of these states. We have so much of the U.S. population doesn't have access. New York was a huge. Taking off, but 3 largest states don't have sports betting. So at some point it becomes not sports betting in X state, it's sports betting in the US, right? Like that's what needs to happen, and have products that you can use everywhere. Well, will we ever get to that? God only knows with the regulatory schemes the way we have to legalize things here, but you have to be able to do that, and just that it's sports betting, that you can do it everywhere, and then the products are great. I've listed a million things that aren't going to happen overnight, but that's what needs to happen, I think.
Yeah, I think it's three main things. One is product development, and making sure that these products are not only to the level of the offshore products, but better. These products need to emulate the apps that we all use daily, Uber, Lyft, these fantastic UX, UI products that we use for everything else in our daily lives. Why would sports betting be any different? So I think that's one area which I do believe that we are on the right track. If you think back 3 years, these products were, even FanDuel and DraftKings were nowhere near what they are now. So product development is one. Second, and I apologize for banging this drum again, but it's education. It's educating the consumer on the benefits of using legalized products in state. And then the third piece is building the relationship with the consumers and building trust between the operator and the consumer. Obviously we've spoken to a lot of sports bettors in person, somewhere in the region of 5 to 10 million. And I wouldn't say it's a common theme, but one of the frustrations we do get from consumers that have tried these sports betting apps, the legal sports betting apps in the past, is that there have been issues with getting their money out. For example, place a bet, win a bet, and you try to withdraw, and it can take several days, if not longer, to get your money. And I think the more and more of that we see in the industry, the less and less likely people are to trust the sports books, the legalized sports books. So again, those would be the three areas that I think the industry as a whole needs to focus on in order to really make that shift, a long-term shift.
Adam?
Yeah, I tend to agree. We touched on a few of them. The experience, I think, is really important, not just online, but offline, through, the brick and mortar, the casino experience, the tangibility, sports teams, how does that all work together, I think is important to that, builds trust to it as well. And education is obviously really important. I'm not convinced anyone knows really, well, we do, but outside of the bubble, the difference between regulated or not, especially in states like New Jersey. And I wonder if there's a way as an industry, the sports books, the affiliates can come together in some type of campaign that might be able to communicate that in a way that's in partnership with each other, which
Sounds like a good business move.
I mean, we've done it in other markets around responsible gambling, and the benefits of that. So can we do that around regulation?
Yeah.
And not to toot our own horns too much, but for Adam and I especially, it's just more of our sites, right? There are still lots of offshore affiliates that have the same kind of content that we do there, but they're pointing people to offshore affiliates. Now we have often displaced them, in rankings. Especially, we see this change in search where the sites that are promoting regulated sportsbooks are getting valued higher. But I still see it every day. I see it in the media. I see it in the search results. Legal Sports Report is one of our sites. It's a very authoritative site, but it can get there's Legal Sports Betting, for instance, is an offshore affiliate site, covers legal issues, sends people to Bovada and MyBookie and things like that, right? It's hard for the consumer to differentiate that and see the difference. They see legalsportsbetting.com, I can go over here and this is a legal sports book. People want information, and the more of the site, more of that happens. More affiliates that are out there, more affiliate sites that are out there and displace the offshore. That'll help in the long run.
Cool. Well, I see a lot of hungry faces out there, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Unless you guys have any questions from the audience. Yeah, we do have a question.
The answer to that last question: Black Friday.
Black Friday.
FBI shut everything down, but hang out for pokers. My question is around Adam. What's the sweet spot for number of operators that's not confusing the customer? Like if you have 20 different sports books and you're marketing all 20, I feel like that's like it's just too much. I don't know. Where do you feel the sweet spot is, and how do you decide which operators to work with? Motions, UX, UI.
Yeah, I can go first. Look, we've experimented with live activation events where we are white labeled with one operator. We do a lot of that work, obviously, and also where we represent Betting Hero, and therefore we look and feel much like a traditional affiliate site. We actually find that there's a lot more success when we are very targeted and deliberate in our messaging, i.e., working with one operator, where we are white labeled. Obviously, I go back to the trust piece. We're able to build the trust with the consumer representing that brand. So, for example, if we were representing Fubo, we would be wearing Fubo, right? And the questions that we get from consumers, we're able to answer those questions as if we were Fubo. They don't know that this team that's activating them in a sports bar at a venue is a Betting Hero employee, and nor do they need to know that. So, I think certainly having a more targeted approach and then being able to build that trust is important. To answer your second part of your question about how do you decide who to partner with, look, we're affiliates. Clearly, the CPA equation is made. However, and I don't want to speak for these guys, but at our business, we have and will continue to not work with operators that don't have a product that's conducive to having success. We've got many of those examples in the last 6 months even. Where an operator is very keen to work with us and have live activation events done, but if their product is not going to be successful when it comes to activating a consumer, registering, funding, and betting, and that consumer is going to leave with a negative impression of the operator, that's not a partnership that we want we want to go down, which is partly why we built a research division to help operators test their products, understand what their consumers are looking for, analyze their competitors, and obviously improve their products.
Not just the operator either, but Betting Hero. That has a negative effect potentially on your own brand
sure.
that you're building. So
Yep.
that's something we talk about all the time. The paradox of choice is a real issue. The Netflix effect, you know, you're scrolling through Netflix, you can't find anything to watch because there's too much. It's happening here with sportsbooks. And look, our philosophy is to work with less and work deeper. So not just about acquisition either, and making sure that brands are finding ways to stand out and to the customers that they're going after as well. So, you know, a book that's price sensitive, we're looking for a different customer to one that might have a betting get or a tangible asset that goes along with that as well.
Great question. Red light's flashing at me. Means it's time to get out of here. Dustin, Jay, Adam, thank you very much. iGaming next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.